Hi, you guys. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be doing something a little different. You can see I have this background of early Sex in the City. Um, but I'm Allie. If it's your first time here, welcome. I'm so happy that you found my channel. I talk about the ancient feminine. I talk about the matriarchal feminine. I talk about the Akashic records. I'm a seer, an oracle, a priestess, and all of my work is really around helping us raise our feminine energy, raise our frequency into our highest possible iteration in this lifetime so that we can do what we came here to do. So today we're going to talk about more of the ancient feminine lens, and I've been talking a lot about Venus and the fact that we have been been doing Venus dirty collectively, that we're meant to be working with her in a much deeper way than just glamour magic and beauty. And I'm not saying that, radiance and magnetism, all those things are important for us to feel confident as women so we can do what we came here to do. But that's the point, that there's a deeper meaning. Isn't just about being pretty. She has a deeper purpose that we're missing the point of. And as a priestess, I feel like it's my responsibility to bring this forward so that we can start having these conversations collectively. And I'm doing an initiation into this. There's two ways that you can kind of tap into this, and then we're going to get into the message here for today, the teaching. First, I did a masterclass that introduces this conversation called the Venus Mysteries Masterclass. It's $33. For now, it's going to go up in price later on. I'll put the link to that in the description. And then also I'm doing a deeper initiation into what I call the Venus Temple, which is a 5-month experience I'm leading, where we're going to learn how to embody the mature Venus in her high feminine mastery. So we'll talk about that a little bit throughout today's teaching, but let's get into the Sex and the City stuff. So if you haven't watched the show, you might not fully understand exactly what I'm talking about here because I'm going to go into character details. However, I'll try to make it so you can follow along with us. So, when I was making the Venus Mysteries Masterclass a couple weeks ago, I was like, we're all learning the maiden form of Venus. As women, we've been taught how to be in our maiden Venus energy, but we haven't been taught. We're just now starting how to operate in more mature versions of the feminine, which often include things like decentering men, things that really ruffle the feathers of like this deep programming that we've been given. And a lot of us, I think our parents, not everyone, but I think a lot of people my age, I'm 34, I was born in 1990, we were taught to not rely on a man because our mothers had watched their friends, their mothers be burned by the men who they didn't have like any financial autonomy. And so they were stuck in certain situations. And then my generation and probably 10 years before and 10 years after, we were all really taught or a lot of us were taught, don't put yourself in that situation. And we became over masculinized because of that. And there's a balancing out, which a lot of us have been doing that work. But where we haven't gone yet is coming out of the maiden Venus and how she shows up in the priestess circles and the divine feminine circles and sisters. Like, we need to deepen in our maturity of Venus and understand what her deeper purpose is. And when I was thinking about all this, I was like, whoa, Carrie Bradshaw is absolute maiden Venus. She's absolute maiden Venus. And Samantha Jones is really the mature version of Venus, or maybe not the most mature version, but she's further along on that path. And when the show came out, Samantha was like, she was kind of more of the character that was like unlikable, and it's like, oh, she's too much and she's too bitchy and she's too bossy, and Carrie, like, oh yeah, Carrie, poor Carrie, she's with all these men who are just taking advantage of her and blah 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 blah. But Carrie, like, now people who are watching the show like in 2025, they're like, Carrie, girl, like, what are you doing? And so I'm going to talk in today's video about some of the ways that they each depict that. And so if you haven't watched Sex and the City, this is Carrie Bradshaw, which you probably already know just from like pop culture. Here's Samantha Jones. And we could probably do other videos on Miranda and on Charlotte, but that we're not going into them today. These two are the broader extreme that are easy to look at. So Carrie, her entire life centers around men. Who is she dating? Who is like, are they interested in her? There's so much for her around needing to be approved and needing to be validated, needing to be chosen. And when I'm talking about Carrie, I want you to listen for where this might show up yourself. Because even when I was writing some of the stuff about Carrie, I did an Instagram post that had a lot more information in it about examples and stuff. And I was like, ooh, like I've definitely done some of these things, so it's not like shading Carrie, it's saying, where are we showing up as Maiden Venus, or where have we shown up, and where are we being asked to deepen and mature? We're having a lot of these conversations collectively around boundaries, around standards, around values, around choosing ourselves. However, there are just some deeper ways that we can start to apply it in our life. But these two are the perfect example. So Carrie, it's like she's writing about love, yet she's a mess. Like she's not embodied in what she's actually writing about. I mean, she's embodied in the fact that she's being vulnerable and sharing her heart. However, she never chooses herself. She also doesn't choose her friends. She's the person, we all probably have a friend like this. I don't have friends like this because I can't tolerate it. It drives me insane. And it's kind of repulsive energy to me. No offense. If that's you, it's probably not. But women who like will throw anybody or anything under the bus for a man's approval are like, babe, you have a lot of work to do. Like, that's unacceptable. And Carrie does this all the time. And there's this scene. I'm actually going to pause it because I just saw someone post this on TikTok, and this is the perfect scene. So I'm just going to interrupt this video for a second here.
He's upset about Natasha leaving.
Okay, you know what? I'm not holding your hand through this again.
I'm not asking you to hold my anything. We're just having lunch.
It's a huge mistake.
It is not a huge mistake. It's lunch.
Wake up, Carrie. How many more times are you going to go through this?
Period.
He is bad for you. Jesus, every time you get near him, you turn into this pathetic, needy, insecure victim. And the thing that pisses me off the most is that you're more than willing to go right back from work.
I am not going back for more, and I can't even believe...
What a victim.
I can't believe you would say that to me.
If you start up with Big again...
I am not starting up with Big again.
Well, if you do, I don't want to know anything about it. I mean it, Carrie. No calls, no crying.
Oh, what are you going to do, Miranda? You going to cut me out of your life like you did to Steve?
So Carrie in the show so many times will ditch her friends because Big calls, or she'll ditch her friends because some guy is now available to her, or because something happens, because she puts the man above everything else. She centers men more than the people who are there for her in and out. And it's really interesting as a woman because I've started to do this, and everyone I know who has also done this feels the same way. When you stop centering men so much, and it's not that I've done this 1,000%, I'm still like a lover girl at heart, but when you start to do this, other women like really don't. It's like some women, all of a sudden, you won't have anything to talk to with about them because all they know how to talk about, wow, my finger looks so weird with this thing. All they know how to talk about is men and their problems with men and what's happening with their boyfriend. That's the only thing that they can contribute. Her entire life runs around that and shoes, which is fine. But she's seeking validation and approval. She's putting she's rooting her identity in her relationship status. She also is doing things that are pathetic and embarrassing to try to be chosen. Like, do you guys remember in the show when she's dating Big and she's like, "Oh, I want to go to church with you." Has she ever gone to church? And he's like, "Well, that's something I sort of just like do with my mom. It's just something that the two of us do together." And she shows up at church, and it's like it's like two stories, and she's in the second story, and she drops a Bible on the floor. He told her not to come, basically. He looks up with his mom, and she's up in the pew, drops a Bible, so the entire church turns around and looks at her. She interrupts the whole service, and then she's like, it's like, that's so embarrassing. Like, what are you doing? Have some self-respect. And it's like she's throwing herself at him to be chosen, which of course is repulsive to him also. Or all the times that she shows up at his house, and I'm going to put some pictures in here so maybe you remember if you watched a show a long time ago. She shows up and he's like, "Why are you here?" And he's like, "Well, you're here, so I guess I'll entertain you, but it's like he's not, she's, she's the one who's pursuing him so much. And a lot of us have already learned this around like, hey, as the woman, if you want to be in your feminine energy, if you want a masculine man, honey, you've got to pull it back. Let him do the pursuing. Don't be texting him all the time. Don't initiate conversation. If he's interested, he'll do it. Let him show up as the man. You don't need to organize and control everything. And if he's not choosing you, he's not for you. It's pretty easy and obvious. However, when we're operating from that wounded aspect, that's like, I need you to choose me because I haven't chosen myself. It creates that sort of pathetic, desperate energy. And I'm saying this, I've definitely done that. I'm not saying this of like, wow, you're like horrible if you've done this. Like we've all probably done this and we've learned better, right? So what else does Carrie do that sucks? Oh, so she has this beautiful relationship with Aiden who's obsessed with her and who's doing all of this stuff for her. And then Big, like, she smells a whiff of Mr. Big and she's like, okay, well, I'm actually going to cheat on Aiden, rip his heart to shreds. And because she romanticizes chaos. She romanticizes unavailability. Again, how many of us have done that, right? We think we can fix someone or we think, oh, I'll make them want me or whatever it might be. No, you're actually not going to. And so she cheats on Aiden with Big, and then she's like appalled that Aiden is like, hey, I'm actually not going to get back together with you because he demonstrates something that Samantha demonstrates actually. And he showcases like, I love you, but I value myself and my peace over being with you. That is something that a secure, healthy person will always do. As Samantha says, I love you, but I love me more. And Carrie's like, what? You're not going to choose me? No, bitch, you cheated on him with someone that you told him wasn't an issue. Get out of here. So, then all that's not even it. That's not even it. Then throughout the show, she continues throughout the show and the movies. I haven't watched the newer version of the movie or the whatever it is where they're all like 65 or something. I haven't watched that, but I did watch the movies. And throughout the movies, like she's married to Big and then she runs into Aiden in Abu Dhabi or wherever it is that they're at. And then she like kisses him and it's like, you're married to Big. Like, what is wrong with you? Why are you like investing in this chaos so much? In Charlotte, there's a scene, and I'll put the little visual here of it. She's like, what are you thinking? Basically. And Carrie's like, what do you mean? What am I thinking? Of course I have to see him. I ran into him halfway across the world. There's a symbolic meaning. And Charlotte's like, you know that you're going to get into trouble. And Carrie acts like she's kind of like crazy and that she's just insecure because of her own situation happening. And it's like she just like wants chaos. Maiden Venus wants chaos. She wants to be chosen by everybody. She doesn't, she's gonna, and this also might be some other issues where it's like, sabotaging security. You're not comfortable with security. You're not comfortable with stability. You're not comfortable with things being calm and peaceful. So you create chaos. There could be a lot of issues going on here. But so Maiden Venus, it's like she's rooting her identity in her relationship status. And this is one of the things that kind of is a pet peeve for me around the Venus space in the feminine circles, because so much of it is around like finding the perfect man for you or becoming the version of yourself that attracts a man. And it's like there are things like me saying this, if you're new to me and you don't know me and you don't know my value system or whatever, like I love deep devotional love. That's something that's very important to me. It feels something that's a high purpose for me. And it's not the number one goal. And this is something that I think in our society, women, it's like our number one goal has been to be chosen. Because if you think about the last couple hundred years, really the last 2000 years, wasn't this way 5,000 years ago. It was not this way in the ancient feminine times. And this is more of what I teach about in the other videos on my channel. So make sure you subscribe if you like my vibe and you like this video, and you want more stuff like this on your feed. In the last several hundred years, women had to be chosen in order to survive. If you were living in 1726 and you didn't have a husband to make money for you and to take care of you. You were just like the crazy spinster down at the end of the street who life would have been incredibly hard for, and you basically would have been unprotected or just seen as like a massive loser, like at best. So we have this subconscious programming that we have to be chosen for our survival. So it's when I'm talking about this, it's not just like, oh, Carrie's just pathetic and a loser. Like it's more so there's this deep subconscious wound and program that still lives in us through our DNA. Like that is a factual truth. It lives in our cells and our DNA until we mature out of that, until we do our shadow work around that to realize, hey, I can actually choose myself. And this is what Samantha does really well. So, Samantha in the show, she owns her own PR company in New York. She's very successful. She has a great reputation in her business. She's a solid businesswoman. She has enough money to take care of herself. She buys beautiful clothes. She takes good care of herself and her body. She's eating well. Meanwhile, like Carrie smokes in every single episode. And anyways, also it was just like a different time when this was filmed. But um Samantha like has her shit together. She doesn't need anybody. However, she also is like she's still a woman. She's still in her feminine energy. She's still very sexually like she doesn't have all of this sexual programming that women have been given through the patriarchal standard. She doesn't need a man, however, she's open to men. She says a lot of things in the show where she's like, enjoy men, just know that they're not the center of your life. Like, and I'm forgetting the exact things. I'll put some pictures up here so you can see what I'm talking about. But she gives a lot of really valuable advice that would be very helpful for like 18-year-olds to know and for like 25-year-olds to know. And for us when we're growing up, like, hey, your whole life isn't about being with a man. You actually have your own life, and they're sort of just the cherry on top. And something that we're seeing today a lot is that there's a lot of women who are talking about decentering men, which is something we all have to do. Basically, what that means is that we're just, instead of put, like, if you actually start to notice, how often do I prioritize men? Where do I prioritize their needs over mine? And I'm not even talking about your partner. I'm talking about any man that exists. Where do I give them extra benefit of the doubt? And here's a really good question to ask around decentering men. Where do I have different expectations for a man than I do for a woman? And one of the things that really helped me when looking at this question is like, and it's easy if you're thinking about like a romantic person, like, would I accept this behavior from a woman? We have higher expectations of women. And so basically decentering men is like, okay, men have this easier, we give them more benefit of the doubt. We expect a lot, it's a lot harder for men. It's bringing it down. So we're treating men exactly the same way that we treat other women. That's all that it is. It's not saying you hate men. And what I was saying is that a lot of women are talking about these conversations about men from a space of like, you don't need them. You can't live with them. You can't live without them. Like, they're talking about men from this space of like, men are horrible. Men are disgusting. Men are vile. Some men might be, absolutely. However, I'm going to do a different teaching about this in the Venus Temple, which is the deeper course slash initiation I'm leading this summer, which starts really soon, about the balance of decentering men and understanding men. Because we have to understand how to work with men. They have completely different biology. They do not operate the same way as women do. And we haven't been taught how to actually understand them and work with them. Because when you understand them, it's crazy how fast they change their behavior. When you understand, like, okay, just like speaking a different language, you learn how to speak French. Okay, well, their word for this is different. I have to speak to this differently. And then all of a sudden they show up totally differently. So there's a balance, absolutely. Samantha showcases this really well because she's like, I love men. Men give me so much pleasure. Men add so much to my life. But the second that they stop adding to my life, bye. Because unlike Carrie, she puts her self-worth above what a man can bring her. She's like, if you start robbing me of my peace, and not in a way like a lot of people say this, and it's low key, just like, hey, honey, you're probably super avoidant, or like, hey, you're just actually, sometimes when people say like, anything that robs me of my peace is out, well, that can also be like a cop out for not doing your shadow work or for not having difficult conversations with people, right? Like there's a fine line with that. But also like a lot of men, if you think about maybe people you know in relationship or your own previous relationships, it's like they can rob us. So, like any relationship, it doesn't have to be a man or woman. If somebody's robbing you of your peace, if somebody is making your life actively worse consistently, and it's not just like a phase you're going through, it's not just like a difficult thing that you're experiencing with them, it's like a constant, like big fucking always stressing carry out. Well, if you're in your higher Venus energy, if you're in your more mature Venus energy, you value yourself the most. You love yourself the most, and way more than you're ever going to love anyone else. And not from a selfish, conceited place, but from a place of self-respect. And there's a lot of reprogramming we have to do as women because we've been taught, oh no, you're supposed to sacrifice, actually. You are actually really supposed to just like throw yourself under the bus for everyone else around you. Um, and if you don't, then you're selfish and you're conceited and it's all about you. And this is how Samantha was seen when the show first came out. And now it's like, I don't know if you guys are on TikTok. If you are, maybe you've seen, there's been this kind of resurgence of like, I don't know if it's Gen Z or whoever, like people who would never watch Sex in the City, who are watching it now and they're like, there's not much talk about Samantha though. The talk is about Carrie and it's like, girl, pull it together, rein it back in, focus on yourself. Stop chasing him, you know? So Samantha, what else does she do that's really good? So she doesn't root her identity in anything outside of who she is at her core. Her view of herself doesn't change if she's single. It doesn't change if she's in a relationship. It doesn't change if she has 20 lovers. It doesn't change if she's in any version of a romantic experience. Like she's always, her identity is rooted in herself and who she is. She's not giving herself validation. She's not feeling safe. And this is the way that I actually word this when I teach this in the high seductress energy, which is Samantha is kind of a muse. She's one of the muses for that archetype that I teach. I'm the only person in the world who teaches that archetype, by the way, because I downloaded it and I channeled it. Anywho, the high seductress self-sources her safety. She's not getting it from anywhere outside of us. And this could be a lifetime of learning how to self-source our safety, depending on how much work we have to do around that. And so what that means is we're not looking for validation from other people. Like we don't even need it. Like, hey, I actually don't care if you guys like this video because I think it's good. I actually don't care if you choose me because I actually like myself and approve of myself and think I'm a fucking cool person. That's what it looks like. But when we start to look at the conversations around safety around money, like this, I'll just give this example. This is just one thing I learned years ago when I went into my own business and didn't have a paycheck coming in anymore. I was like, whoa, like I used to feel safe with money because I knew that a paycheck was coming in. But now that I don't have a consistent paycheck and it's reliant on the amount of work that I do, or it's reliant on the work I've done in the past, or the connections I've made, or the conversations I'm having, or, it's reliant on me only. Like, whoa, do I feel safe in that anymore? Do I feel safe that the money is going to show up? Do I feel safe that the abundance and everything I need is going to be given to me through the universe? That's just one example of self-sourcing safety. And knowing that you actually are the safety and no one else can provide that to you. This is like a lifetime of lessons, right? And in relationship, this is a really big one because, if, for example, if the person you're talking to ghosts you, okay, all of a sudden you might not feel safe. And I'm not saying you just necessarily should feel totally safe. You should have some sort of probably emotion if you're like a normal, healthy person. However, the question is with Carrie, then she is going to like make her whole plot line for the whole year around that. And Samantha's like, oh, well, he didn't talk to me. On to the next thing. I'm not even going to put attention on that because he's ghosted me. So he's no longer a part of my story. Bye. Like, she's not making that mean anything personal about herself. Right? So can you guys see some of these depictions of the maiden Venus who's looking for external validation, who's looking for approval, who's looking to be chosen instead of choosing herself? Whereas Samantha's like, I'm the shit. Anybody who's with me is lucky. And not from an overinflated place, but from a genuine place of loving who she is and loving herself. So there's a lot of work for us to go through from going from maiden to mature Venus. And this is something that I teach, and I teach it because I'm not saying I'm an expert or I'm like 100% in my mature Venus. I'm learning all this, which makes me the best teacher for it. And I've been deeply learning about all these different energies for the last 10 years. And with Venus, really specifically for the last 5 years, I've had really deep initiations in this work. And so I'm leading a temple called the Venus Temple. It's an initiation this summer. We start now, actually, but the doors are going to shut on May 30th. Our first call is May 30th, and the orientation stuff is out now. And so if you want to I call this high feminine mastery. If you want to deepen your high feminine mastery, join now so that you can start getting into the orientation materials and you won't be super rushed, because June 1st, we're going to start with the first archetype, which is the lover. And so in the Venus Temple, what I do, this is throughout 10 years of running my business and 7 years of running it full time. What I've learned is that the best, most efficient way for us to embody new frequencies is to work with archetypes, but most archetypes have been written by like ancient men, not even ancient, they're not that good, like 1920s men who are super patriarchal. You know, they're so I'm tapping into the ancient feminine archetypes that I remember, or sometimes that I've studied, but a lot of it just comes from my own channel of what the ancient feminine is. And so, for example, like the high seductress, people might, in our modern age, might call her the femme fatale. No, the femme fatale is a wound, it's a shadow. The femme fatale is not a healthy archetype to operate in, and it's teaching us patriarchal ways of femininity that are not accurate to the ancient feminine. So I'm teaching these archetypes, and I was saying this is the most efficient way, the ancient feminine archetypes, because it gives us a model. It gives us different things that we can tune into. I just call these like growth themes that we look at to see what's most applicable in our life and where we can start to really apply that theme in our life. And because we're spending a month with each of these archetypes, you have time to see like for example, with the lover, one of the big themes is there's like 5 themes for each archetype. One of them is, where are you closing your heart? So when is it that you choose, instead of keeping your heart open when there's pain, where is it that you're choosing to close? You'll notice, oh, I got in a fight with this person today, and then I was like, then I'm just going to cut them off, or then I'm just going to give them the silent treatment, or then I'm going to close off from them and not let them in to see my pain. And so then you can like start to work with these themes in a very tangible way in your life that shows you where your edges are, that's going to show you limiting beliefs and show you programs that you don't even know that you have. So it's just like super profound. And I've been teaching this archetypal work specifically for 3 years now, and it's just like blows my mind every time. For myself too. I practice it alongside with you guys, even though I'm the facilitator as well. So the Venus Temple, we go through 5 archetypes over 5 months. We start at the end of May. We're going to go from June through October. So it's going to be a Venus-filled summer. You're going to end this initiation like a different version of yourself. And I can say that with 1000% confidence. You're going to be cooler. You're going to be more beautiful. You're going to be more deeper, like deeply enriched in yourself. You're going to be more rooted. You're going to be more radiant. You're going to be more magnetic. You're going to be more self-sourced. And there's a lot of other things that are potentially going to happen with that, because there's deeper emanations of Venus, and I talk about some of those in some of the other videos on my YouTube channel. Today's about Sex in the City. So I hope that you enjoyed this. Please share it if you think it would be helpful for somebody else. Please also interact with this video. My mission is to raise the ancient feminine in our entire female collective, because when we are operating in our ancient feminine energy, the entire world changes. The feminine is meant to, and priestesses especially, which I really attract a lot of priestesses towards me. People who have been doing this probably alongside me in temples and in different spaces for many lifetimes. Our job is to steward collective consciousness. And as women, if we are operating in our mature feminine, think about how much is Carrie able to do when she's fucking obsessed over Big. He's married to somebody else. She's having an affair with him. He's still not choosing her. She's ashamed of herself. Where is her power at versus Samantha's power? So when we're in our ancient feminine energy, we're able to provide and give so much more to the world And just being in that energy alone naturally affects so much. So that's why this is so important to me. And I think it will be so valuable for you because it's not just incredibly valuable for you, it's also valuable for the world and for the collective, like genuinely. So the links to the Venus Temple will be in the comments and the description. I would love for you to join us. If you have any questions, you can email me. We're starting really soon though, so jump in as soon as you can so that you can have as much time to get into the orientation stuff. I'm not sure how I will offer this again. This is a live program that I'm doing right now, and it might be the only time that it's offered live. And so there's going to be, oh, you also get an Akashic Records journey with me, which I almost never include in these courses. So usually it's a separate purchase. So this is kind of a one-time experience where it's going to be a live thing with me. We have calls every 2 weeks. We have a Voxer chat. So you're going to get personal attention. I work with people very intimately. I don't have groups of 100 people. I have groups of like 5 people or 10 people. So we'll see what happens for the Venus Temple, but we're working intimately because I want to see what is going on in your space, where your blind spots are. I want to help you as much as possible. You have personal attention on you in this. In most courses, there's 100 people and the facilitator doesn't even know who you are. That is not the case. We're going to do deep work, deep transformation, and if I were you, I would jump in because this is like gonna change your life. So that's all. Subscribe to the channel if you want more information like this, and like the video and leave a comment if it was supportive, or if you have any other thoughts. You're like, yeah, Samantha also does this and that's awesome. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week, and I'll see you later.